Coming up on show 824, China's rival to the Tesla Model 3, the Xpeng P7, is finally shipping. Stick around, I'll tell you more. Plus on the podcast today, we're talking about Tesla Energy making even more moves into Europe, electric flights, more subsidy boosts in some parts of Europe. And here, only Mackie D's are going to put a bunch of DC fast chargers in. Thank you, McDonald's. We'll get to those details soon. Well, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you're listening around the world. Welcome to EV News Daily. My name is Martyn Lee. This is what happened on Monday, 29th of June. I go through every EV story, so you don't have to. Thank you very much to all the patrons of this show on Patreon that support and make the show happen. Thank you as always to MyEV as well. At myev.com in the US is a place where you can go to not only find out what cars are for sale, maybe in your local area, maybe your county, or even if you're looking nationwide, and yes, you do have to be in the US, or maybe you're selling as well, want to get a kind of guide price of what other EVs are selling for. And look, the best thing is it's totally free to use. Check out myev.com. Right, first of all, we have to clear up a bit of a news story that's been doing the rounds today and is a bit of a false alarm. So I'll start with a piece of news that isn't really a piece of news. I saw more than one EV blog today, certainly the ones that are, let's be kind when I say this, very pro-Tesla, the kind of blogs that even Tesla's marketing department would be happy if they'd written some of those articles themselves. They went with a big story today that Tesla just added a bunch of range to the Model 3 in China. Well, we do know that there's the LFP battery packs coming. There's a new battery pack chemistry coming for Tesla in China. But the design studio changed, and it showed that the made-in-China Model 3 performance version, that was the one announced back in April, coming early next year, Q1 2021, suddenly had 65 miles more range. And so, yes, that story was doing the rounds on Twitter and in the blogs today, saying they've found a way of adding loads more range to the Model 3. Just a small clarification, they haven't changed anything, but what they were doing is they were showing the WLTP range on the Chinese website. WLTP is like our version of the EPA, for instance. It's how we measure how far an EV would go. It's sort of accurate. China still uses NEDC, which is what the test cycle we used to use here, which isn't even close. And Tesla haven't been using that until today. All they did was they just swapped from displaying the WLTP range, which was 329 miles, to the NEDC range, adding another 65 miles of range, another 105 kilometers, 20% more. So it looks like the Tesla Model 3 Performance all of a sudden does 395 miles. It doesn't. That is simply on the Chinese test cycle, which is, it's pretty generous, if I'm honest with you. In fact, it's nowhere near reality. I mean, look, at least it's a consistent number that everyone's judged by now, that Tesla have moved over to that system. But no, they didn't overnight add 20% more range to the battery. Let's talk about energy with Tesla here in Europe. They have a piece of software called AutoBidder. It's not so much software, it's a platform, if you like, and it's all about, I guess, trading energy is the really simple way I can describe it. Tesla describe it as AutoBidder provides independent power producers or utility companies and their partners to autonomously monetize the battery assets that they've got. AutoBidder works in real time and it trades and energy and provides what they say is value-based asset management and portfolio optimization. By the sounds of it, they're using batteries to what's the phrase? Buy low, sell high. And now, they've been using it in Australia, for instance, and in the US. Now they're using it here in Europe. There's something called the European Power Exchange. And Tesla just joined it. In fact, as of today, Tesla are now trading on the European Power Exchange with AutoBidder. The exec at Tesla, Rohan Ma, commented, and I quote, "We are excited to launch our AutoBidder platform in Europe this summer for Tesla customers seeking to monetize their energy storage assets in electricity markets. This is clearly yet another move with Tesla Energy moving towards Europe. We know Elon's been in the UK. We know that Tesla have been looking at land in the southwest of the UK. I'm convinced they're not going to build cars here because we're leaving Europe with Brexit. And it's just phenomenally hard to ship all of those parts into the country through the closed borders. And, you know, a car is a big jigsaw puzzle and all the parts come from mainland Europe. And then all of a sudden, export the cars back, and we've got a Gigafactory Berlin anyway. So, and the UK market isn't big enough to have its own Tesla factory here. However, energy is a different matter. So what are Tesla doing in the UK? Man, they might just been looking at land, and they might be looking at land everywhere. What are they doing energy-wise? Well, certainly, even if they're not going to become a producer, as in solar and wind and things like that, they could certainly have a bunch of storage and trade that power using their platform. It's just super interesting to think about all the possibilities one day of us being able to put our cars, or even Tesla owners, maybe not everyone, but Tesla owners being able to add their car to the grid and trade the energy that's stored inside their million-mile battery in the future. It's good stuff to think about, right? Let's talk about electric aviation next. And ZEROAVIA is the leading innovator, they say, in commercial aviation. They did their first ever electric-powered flight of a commercial-scale aircraft carried out in the UK, according to electricvehicleresearch.com website today. The test flight was a big milestone in the UK, at least. Another test flight done. There's been a few of these happening around the world. This company, though, they did it with an all-electric plane with batteries, but they are focused on fuel cells. Now, they believe that fuel cells are the answer for aviation because the energy-to-weight ratio of hydrogen storage and fuel cells is much higher at the moment than pure battery electric storage. They say it makes it more viable for commercial operations. Look, if it's zero emission, I don't care how they achieve it. I think that fuel cells is an incredibly dumb thing to do for personal mobility and personal transport. I personally don't want to end up with a car that I then have to take to a filling station, just like I've done all of my life with petrol. And I don't want to swap one for another. I quite like the ability to have solar panels on my roof and charge my car at home. Thank you. Or at least be able to charge it with electricity. I don't want to be charging my own car with hydrogen because then I'm at the mercy of hydrogen producers to set the price that I pay. Anyway, but for shipping, for aviation, even for some mass transit, fuel cells could be a really good solution, and that's what this company think is going to be the future of aviation. They're a government-backed project, by the way. They're called ZEROAVIA, if you want to have a look, and it's quite a big plane that they've taken up with their first electric flight. Looks like it's maybe an 8 or a 10, maybe 20-seater kind of configuration. They're going to be putting up 100-seat aircraft by the end of the decade, they say. Okay, moving on. And let's talk about Austria boosting subsidies. Another government doing this. We get these stories week in, week out. Germany's been the big one lately. 9,000 euros off a brand new EV, under 40,000 euros there. Basically a quarter of the price off if you go up to the maximum price in Germany. Now, the Austrian government is increasing subsidies for plug-in cars from the 1st of July. It does include plug-in hybrids and zero-emission buses, electric two-wheelers as well. If you do have a full zero-emission car, so battery electric or fuel cell, of which there aren't any, they will increase from 3,000 to 5,000 euros subsidies. If you have a plug-in hybrid or a range extender, you get a subsidy of 2,500 euros in Austria now. That is up to a 50,000 euro limit, I think, for plug-in cars. Just more great news. The more governments are really embracing full electric and, well, zero emissions vehicles. And we saw it recently here in the UK as well, with green number plates coming for only zero emissions cars. Plug-in hybrids totally not getting the green number plates and any of the benefits that might come with those. This is an interesting story next. McDonald's in the UK are going to install DC rapid fast chargers all over the country. Now, I know that in Europe, I certainly watch Bjorn's videos on YouTube. In Norway, He's always stopping at McDonald's, and in Sweden, I think, as well. Now, it could be that there's franchises, different countries do different things, but here, largely, those kind of places where the dwell time could be 20 or 30 minutes if you're going in to eat, possibly. DC rapid charging locations, I think places like McDonald's, perfect. Now, I was chatting over this idea with a few of my American friends, and they were gobsmacked that anybody goes into a McDonald's. They said, well, everyone uses the drive-thru. Like, they have seats inside, but you never see a person inside a McDonald's in America, which was there. Some of them, they're in Florida, and I forget where the others are. So, but here, I mean, it's pretty... yeah, we have drive-thrus, but I would say it's more common to, I don't know, maybe as a treat for the kids or something, to go in for 15, 20 minutes and you would eat in. Not everyone, but you would more so here. And so that's where DC fast charging would work in a situation like this. They're partnering with a tech partner called InstaVolt. They're a charger. They say they're the largest owner-operated network of EV chargers in the UK. I think I've seen their press releases say before. They fit 125 kilowatt chargers. In their tech partner is ChargePoint, the US company ChargePoint. That's who makes the hardware. I presume they ship them over on a boat and install them here in the UK. They're nice. I'm sure I've seen some InstaVolt stuff. Maybe it's old. That's the Aussie Tritium ones. Either way, great technology, always really reliable. No use to me with the Zoe because I need AC power and they don't have an AC plug on. But it's great that McDonald's all over the country in the UK are going to be getting DC fast chargers. It seems to me like, yeah, a good 20, 25 minutes of charging up would be good. My only concern is where they put them. They've got 1,300 restaurants in this country, and, you know, a lot of EVs in the future will get to 80% in about 20 minutes. It all looks good, and please don't put them in places where they're going to get charge blocked, whether it's with lazy people or ice drivers. Please paint the floor, put signs up, put a canopy over the top, make it really obvious, McDonald's. These are EV charging spots. Oh no, some of those car parks are pretty small as well. I hope they don't get charge blocked. Fingers crossed. Right, headline story today, Xpeng. Xpeng is how it reads, but I think I pronounce it Xpeng, is finally shipping the P7. This is what has been described as China's Tesla Model 3 rival. And the Chinese startup Xpeng announced yesterday that they've just started their nationwide deliveries of the P7. It's a sports sedan and pretty futuristic styling on this one. Single LED light bar runs the entire width of the front of the car. Starting price of 230,000 yuan. If you do the conversion, and always, you know, buyer beware, because it's really hard to convert because of things like subsidies and taxes, but that would be a roughly 32,000 US dollar conversion, but that's after the subsidies in China. The Model 3 starts at 271,000 yuan, and this Xpeng starts at 230. They've got some huge range on this, 706 kilometers on the NEDC test cycle, and it'll be interesting to see how the local buyers in China react, whether they'll want a car like this or whether they aspire to a car like a Tesla Model 3. We'll have to wait and see, but it's another high-tech car coming out of China. A lot of the Chinese cars, as we've heard before, from two appearances on the show now, from Rupert Mitchell, from Weltmeister, from WM Motor. What the Chinese market wants, it's less about performance, and it's more about things like autonomous driving, connected cars, and all those kind of things, which the Xpeng cars certainly are. I'll pop a link in the show notes to the South China Morning Post article that I found this news in if you want to read more. Staying with China, today Porsche just showed off the very first car that is designed for the Chinese market, a rear-wheel drive single-motor iteration of the Taycan. Now, as with the Taycan 4S, like that's the base model, you can get the 79.2 kilowatt hour battery pack, and if you want, you can always spec it with the bigger one. That's 93.4 kilowatt hour battery pack. And there's a single motor on the rear wheels. That's about 350 kilowatt motor. It's still rapid. It's like 5.5 seconds, 0 to 60, 150 mile an hour top speed. In China, they're going to put an 11 kilowatt onboard charger on. You can spec if you want a 22 kilowatt onboard charger for the Chinese base model Taycan. And in China, the rear wheel drive Taycan has a listed range of 257 miles with the little battery and 304 miles with the big battery. Be careful, NEDC, once again, so maybe take about a third off those, not quite a half, but it's going to be a lot less. So really interesting. I don't know if this is going to be showing up anywhere else around the world, but for now, this is the Chinese spec Tesla, Freudian slip, Porsche Taycan, and will be interesting to see how successful that car is in the Chinese market. I'll pop a link to Green Car Reports in the show notes if you want to read more. Right, I don't know if this is good or bad news. A couple of weeks ago, I was talking about the Toyota RAV4 Prime, and it is, at the time, I believed I used the word compelling, and people I was surprised, because I'm not Toyota's biggest fan because of the whole self-charging hybrid nonsense and the adverts they run in this country saying Toyota chooses not to plug in. They really don't advertise plug-in cars, or they anti-advertise. They show pictures of chargers covered in cobwebs. Like they're trying to turn the public mood against plugging in cars in this country. The Twitter ads and stuff that I've seen, and I've retweeted those. So that's my beef with Toyota. I mean, if you don't want to make plug-ins, that's fine, but don't try and turn public opinion away from EVs just to flog some of your pretty lazy soft hybrids. Rinse that business until nobody else wants them anymore. But the RAV4 Prime, I was very, very complimentary about. And 18.1 kilowatt hour battery pack, I believe it's 16 kilowatt hours usable from the sums that I did on that, is still very, very useful. 4-wheel drive, again, lots of markets, some cold territories as well, want all-wheel drive systems, really rapid. It's like the second quickest car that Toyota make because electric cars are just better. They didn't really go big on that headline, but it's so quick. But we have a problem. They've stopped orders for it. They have a demand problem. Yeah. There's too much demand. According to news from Japan, Toyota has officially suspended orders for the RAV4 Prime. That is only 3 weeks after the country launched the car on the 8th of June. According to Inside EVs, they say, how could it be? What happened? Is it because of the slowdown? No, it's because they're only going to make 300 of them a month. The first worrying sign was that Toyota assigned its home market the sales target of 300 units per month. That's less than 4,000 a year. So I'm not surprised. If you set a target of 4,000 a year, you're going to hit that and you're going to close the order books after 3 weeks. And then you'll sell that 4,000 and say, but look, we're Toyota. We sell tens of millions of cars, but only 4,000 of this plug-in. See, we told you plug-in cars aren't very good. It's really frustrating because I really paid a lot of compliments to the RAV4 Prime. I really complimented Toyota. I thought they were changing their tune. They're just not making any of them. Come on. What are you doing? It's so frustrating to see a big company like that mess it up so spectacularly because they're wedded to their hybrid technology. Stuff that doesn't have a plug. It depresses me. And I thought that the Prime was a new era. Oh, how wrong I was. Okay, let's talk about cars that can be swapped from combustion to EV power. Yesterday on the podcast, we were talking about classic car conversions. One of my listeners sent me a link to Jalopnik, who wrote about electric GT recently. They've been doing some cool EV swap projects for older cars. Now, there's a company called Electric GT. They will swap out the engine in things like Land Cruisers, Broncos, Defenders, pony cars like Mustangs and Camaros, and some small European cars like Fiats and old Porsches as well. They'll put electric drivetrains and powertrains, I should say, inside those. And they also expanded their offering recently with sort of clutches and adapters specifically designed for EV retrofitted vehicles, says Jalopnik. And so maybe this is just the start of a pattern that we're seeing where at some point in the future, it'd be so cool if there is a plug-and-play solution for lots of vehicles, where if you have not even a classic vehicle, but just an older car where the engine's gone, there's big companies like this or others, like Electric GT, where you go online and like, oh, do you do a swap system for a so-and-so Porsche or a Land Cruiser or a Volvo so-and-so? Oh yes, we've got that, and we can ship it to you now. And either as a hobby project at the weekend, or you can have, they'll do it for you, or a mechanic can swap out very easily, pop it in, like for like, and then all of a sudden, a whole new lease of life, and you're driving on electric power. Final story today, and Teslarati are trying to just think through. Interesting article today. There's no real news in this article, but they're just sort of chewing the fat on this. And it was interesting, so I thought I'd bring it to you today, talking about the documents and filings that I've told you about recently on the podcast. Tesla have a facility near their Fremont factory. It's on a place called Cato Road, so we tend to call it the Cato Road facility. And they applied for some permits and filings to increase their battery manufacturing and research there. The project is dubbed Roadrunner, and this is what we think is going to be announced in September, which should have been announced already. Project Roadrunner from Tesla is all about them making their own cells, rather than having to have Panasonic and CATL make the cells and Tesla making the batteries, or a combination of that. So really vertically integrating from the, sourcing the materials, making the cells, and at the minute, they have a small-scale facility operating there, but they want to make it a lot bigger. And one of the things this article goes on to speculate was actually what hasn't been mentioned in this whole kind of million-mile battery thing, which is all a little bit of a strange phrase to use anyway, because the batteries last 1,000,000 miles already. However, what about the Tesla Model S? So we know the Raven edition goes 400 miles and is crazy fast. But what about this new battery technology? What about if it's not purely about extra range or longevity with million miles? What about if the Tesla Model S Plaid model, which is coming at the end of this year, is waiting on Project Roadrunner? And what if the Model S at the end of the year is going to get a big update? So a styling update, it'll be made to look more like the Y and the 3 with a landscape display, and the tech changes underneath the surface as well. So maybe by the end of the year, on sale by early next year, the Plaid Model S could be, they could be ready to go. They're just waiting on the battery technology. Interesting stuff. We'll bear that in mind when Battery Day rolls around in September, which is going to be definitely huge news for Tesla. Well, there you go. I've worked out that's 10 stories today. 10 of the most I was going to say optimistic. There was one about Toyota running out of models, which wasn't so. But otherwise, amazingly optimistic. Feel-good stories to put a smile on your face if you love your EVs. 10 of the best to start your week. You can get in contact anytime with this show. My email address is hello@evnewsdaily.com, or leave a comment. I'd love to see your thoughts in the comment section of the YouTube show. There are 823 previous shows in the archive, and this show is on the air thanks to the support of individuals and companies. They are my patrons. The website we use is Patreon, patreon.com/evnewsdaily. My premium partners are Phil Roberts of Electric Future, Brad Crosby, Avid Technology, Brightsmith Group for Clean Tech Talent, Porsche of the Village in Cincinnati, Audi of Cincinnati East, and Volvo Cars of Cincinnati East. Plus now, nationalcarcharging.com and allohacharge.com. If you ever find yourself in iTunes, by the way, either on your phone, your tablet, even if you are using iTunes on a computer, shudder, then feel free, by the way, to click on the little ratings and review bit of the podcast in the podcast app or in iTunes, because you can either leave a star rating, or if you've got time, there's even if you click on ratings and review, leave a few words, and it just really helps grow the show. If you get a chance, it'd be amazing to do that. But no worries. If not, have a wonderful day. I'll catch you tomorrow. And remember, there's no such thing as a self-charging hybrid.